Well, welcome everybody who tuned in for another update call. Again, we thought this is the perfect timing just to give you kind of like some insights about the market, what's happening right now. Obviously, especially over the last week, I would say a lot has been happening in the market, and therefore we just want to unpack that for you. And today, obviously, I have my wonderful colleague Max, who is going to be part of the journey today. But yeah, I think let's jump right into it. It's always nice to look at prices, yeah, and maybe quickly check what happened, what kind of events happened in the market over the last kind of 7 to 14 days. Max, what happened?
Yeah, it's hard to summarize it all in one slide, to be honest. But we tried to pinpoint here some of the, key events. I think we started a few weeks ago, 2 weeks ago now, around the 95K mark. And there were a few things that we were still expecting to happen, like Donald Trump coming into the office and whatnot. But we started with a more than positive PPI CPI print we've seen over the last few months. Coin has been quite reactive to these macro data points. Luckily, this one came in with expectations, and so it brought the market a little higher. And that coincided with also news of the government to return 96K worth of Bitcoin, around 10 billion's worth, to Bitfinex, as they were satisfied with the repayment that they did back in 2016. And then that really set the stage, I think, for the week after and the weekend that we experienced the last week. Shortly after that, we got, as you guys may know, and we'll touch on this as well later, but Trump and Melania, they launched their own meme coins. I can't believe I'm actually saying this, but they did launch their own meme coins. And that kind of sucked the liquidity out of Bitcoin, I would say, onto, Solana and then the meme coins. So you can see that with the price chart there. Throughout this week, Bitcoin has been quite volatile, as you can see with the price chart over there. There was no mention of crypto during the inauguration, so it dumped ever so slightly as well. But last night we got the exciting news that there was some executive orders signed with regards to digital assets. And so this can really set the stage, I think, for the next wave of growth here.
I think so too. I mean, it's been quite a week, right? I would say in the crypto community, a lot of people expected Trump to say something the first day, basically the first couple of hours. That didn't come through, and the market was a bit stalled, I would say. It didn't really react because they were like waiting for the end of the week. But thankfully yesterday we had kind of like the first sign that things are moving forward, and we're about to unpack some of these things as well. Maybe let's just quickly go back to, yeah, I mean, PPI and CPI print that came out positively. It's so fascinating to me, like how markets can shift so quickly, and also the sentiment. I mean, I remember 2 weeks ago, everyone thought, okay, that's it, no rate cuts. I know the Bank of America came out. They don't expect any rate cuts this year. It seemed very dark. While now it seems like the market got some new enthusiasm, which is quite crazy to see. And the other thing on maybe just so it's clear, those 96,000 Bitcoin to Bitfinex, is that a bullish or a bearish sign?
It's bullish, right? Because the whole point is that it's not going to be sold now on the open market. So that 10 billion worth of Bitcoin will be returned to the exchange as opposed to it being sold off on the open market. So it's a bullish indicator. And yeah, I mean, the one thing I also found fascinating was with regards to the inauguration, there was no mention of crypto, and you can see the Bitcoin price slowly, well, it dumped shortly after that. But, crypto is our industry, and for us, it may be the world. But there are also other important things that maybe come before that, and that he did talk about. So let's give a bit of perspective here as well. It's important that crypto is now going to be in the limelight in the US, but of course, it's expected that he doesn't mention it as his first sentence,
I agree with you. There's bigger fishes to fry, but yeah, that's kind of like when you're so stuck into this industry, a lot of times, yeah, you might get disappointed. Wonderful. Maybe let's quickly unpack, because I think it all started last weekend. I remember I woke up in the morning, my WhatsApp was full with messages asking me if I participated in the Trump rally. And yeah, what actually happened is that the new president of the US, he coached a meme coin, which is quite crazy to say, right?
Yeah, this is exactly where I'm a little bit jealous of our fellow Americans on the call. They were able to participate probably much earlier than us. But as you said, both president, the incoming president, and the first lady, they launched their own meme coins on Solana. And I think what's interesting to note as a little tidbit, I guess, is the fact that the meme coin at its peak reached 73 billion in fully diluted value, which actually means Donald Trump's wealth in terms of Solana-based assets grew bigger that day than the returns from the S&P since the 70s, which is crazy just to think about. Yeah, then Melania shortly followed suit, and you can see that Donald Trump's token price kind of dropped rapidly thereafter because investors, either flooded to the Melania token in anticipation of, potential gains, or because people were just so skeptical over the fact that both the president and the first lady launched a meme coin.
I had the same reaction. I remember being stuck on X, and then I suddenly saw the news that Melania, she also launched a meme coin, and I saw the market dropping, and I had the same reaction. I was like, okay, this seems a bit unserious. I was very skeptical as well, and I think that's why we saw this initial dump and reaction in price as well. Yeah, I mean, it still remains to be seen, and it's still not clear what this exactly is, right? There hasn't been more details, but I think I saw an interview from David Sachs, our new crypto czar, crypto and AI czar, a few days ago. And yeah, as of now, it's just a meme coin. Basically, he titled this as some sort of connection to be part of this historic moment. But let's see what comes out, in the future, and if it actually has some utility.
Yeah, we'll see exactly that.
How do you feel about it?
I mean, how do I feel about the token itself remains to be seen. But one thing is for sure, that it just gripped attention and the markets quite heavily. I mean, you saw it, the pairs, the Trump pairs themselves, they had over 20 billion in DEX volume over the weekend. That's more than Ethereum's ecosystem as a whole, which is nuts to say. But for investors here or people here who are thinking, okay, but this is quite unserious and may paint, a negative picture on the industry. You guys have a point as well, but on the other hand, I think what's worth mentioning as well is that meme coins, they kind of serve as a Trojan horse, if you will, to the crypto world. For retail participants, it's a very accessible and it has a lot of cultural appeal. And so it's a very easy entry point as opposed to other blockchain-based activities, which may be more complex. And then once they get to grips with the on-chain world, they tend to then go ahead and discover other things of the ecosystem. So
it is very true. That is very true. I mean, I agree with you. I have mixed feelings about it. Mm-hmm. Of course, on one side, especially Melania launching a meme coin, it doesn't look too serious. And especially for a company like us at 21 Shares, where we obviously we want to be very professional about the space. It could be a bit frustrating because that's exactly kind of the misconceptions that we're trying to fight against. But I totally agree with you. I think the big winner here was definitely Solana, a chain that not so recently ago, like a few years ago, suffered heavily from outages, while now it was able to basically, handle so much transaction volume. And that's kind of like a good battle test for a blockchain that wants to become the NASDAQ of the future, which is quite nice to see.
Yeah, fully agreed. Yeah, exactly. In previous years, it may have actually faced outages with this much volume, I think most of the congestion was actually coming from people trying to move from different platforms onto the on-chain world, so nothing really to do with Solana specifically as a network. So yeah, it's a good battle test. And as you said, it aims to be the NASDAQ on chain. And so it was a good opportunity to showcase its abilities as well.
Yeah. So for now, we're trading Melania and Trump ETH coins, but who knows? Maybe in 5-10 years, it might be tokenized US treasuries. But that remains to be seen. So maybe let's move on to kind of like the big news, which, as you said, obviously is the executive order that has been signed yesterday. I think it's worth unpacking that, because obviously it's been such a long week. We've all been waiting for some sign of bullishness. So maybe let's go right into it and unpack it a little bit, because there are some interesting points which are worth mentioning, in my opinion. I think it all starts with, this is the first good point, basically saying protecting and promoting the ability of individuals and private sector entities to access and use lawful purpose open blockchain networks without persecution. I think someone got released from jail a couple of days ago, Ross Ulbricht, and he has been sentenced to a life sentence in prison, because back in the days he created Silk Road, but he got pardoned by President Trump. Same thing is Tornado Cash, for instance, which is a crypto mixer, which mixes transactions to make them more anonymous. Also spiked in price when this came out, because it clearly shows that these protocols, these technologies should be kind of like a neutral playing field. Or how do you see that?
I agree with you as well. And I think like just in terms of, because with Silk Road, with Ross Ulbricht and with Tornado Cash, it's still debatable whether, how lawful it may have been. But
absolutely,
largely speaking, I think the industry as a whole, particularly US-based individuals and projects, have really been hampered in growth and by the previous administration as well. So you saw a lot of, SEC, Wells notices going out to things like Uniswap, IMX as well, Immutable, which is actually operating out of Australia. But regardless, I think the main point here being is that the US will be more open for business. They'll be open for blockchain-based projects to come there and to innovate. And that's something that it suffered with throughout the years before. A lot of talent drain moving away from the US. And now we expect that to pick back up, I think.
Exactly. Really taking away the fear of some of those brilliant minds, developers, entrepreneurs, to actually settle down in the US and build their projects. Absolutely. The next one, also a very big one, is promoting and protecting basically the US dollar dominance by promoting the development and growth of dollar-backed stablecoins. And that kind of goes hand in hand with number 5 here is taking measures to protect Americans from the risk of CBDC, central bank digital currencies. I think that's a big one as well, no?
That's really big. And I'm actually really happy about point 5 in specific as well. But I think the US generally has been thinking about, hey, how can we protect our US dollar, particularly with the rise of BRICS and other kind of pressures coming in the macro sense. It's been thinking, how can we do this? And I think stable coins can promote this quite heavily. As we know, most stable coins are denominated in the US dollar, and it can drive an additional stream of demand for the dollar via, this blockchain-based operation. So it's positive because it means it can defend its US dollar. But the next thing that is good here is that we will not see the rise of CBDCs.
Which is massive because, obviously, as you said, like I've been hearing this all over and over again, like what's going to happen to stable coins in crypto when these CBDCs come out. And obviously, as you mentioned, there was always been kind of that fear that CBDCs become a new tool for financial control. Of capital control, basically, because obviously that is a digital currency that is completely controlled by a centralized entity, the central bank, and therefore a lot of people thought, okay, there might be, capital controls, different interest rates for different people, and a lot of more tools for them to control the money flow.
Yeah, agreed. Like it feels like that would have been a really big risk for individuals because I mean CBDCs, you still the central bank will still be the one issuing these currencies. So you're going to put these currencies in on the blockchain. It doesn't mean that they're now decentralized or anything like this if the issuing party is still the central bank. So and that, like you
Yeah.
said, they could have built additional tools on top of these CBDCs to offer individuals more specific interest rates or some other features that would have given them even more control, which is, of course, goes against the ethos of crypto altogether.
Absolutely, absolutely. And a smart move. I think we've been saying that a lot, that stable coins are kind of a nice gateway for the US to basically strengthen the US dollar dominance.
Yep.
And it's nice to see that they're actually going down that road. So definitely a big one here as well. And maybe let's go. I know it's a long executive order, but obviously I think one very big one is the working group that has been created.
Yeah.
And the big news with that working group is obviously here, this point. The
Mhm.
working group shall evaluate the potential creation and maintenance of a national digital asset stockpile.
They just didn't want to say the word.
What does it mean?
Didn't want to say the word. I mean, look, this is hinting at, the potential of a strategic reserve in digital assets. I mean, a lot of people have been thinking they will announce a strategic Bitcoin reserve for, because of the fact that Bitcoin is this kind of asset that is a hedge against, currency debasement. It is, the freedom. It is, the asset for freedom. And so I think people were thinking that would have been exactly what would have been in that wording would have been used, that it would have been a Bitcoin strategic reserve. But I think this is a clear step forward here. They are going to consider and evaluate the potential of it. And I think that's huge. I think that's absolutely massive. I do expect this to continue to move forward and potentially be called a Bitcoin strategic reserve. But I think it's also a prediction that I think we made in our 2025 market outlook, that more countries will be looking at Bitcoin and adopting it in a, you know, big way, like either as a legal tender or as a reserve. And this may be the first step forward towards that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that Bitcoin will be included here, I think it's pretty clear because it says potentially derived from cryptocurrencies lawfully
Exactly.
seized by the federal government through its law enforcement efforts.
Yeah.
However, national digital asset stockpile, I mean, the rumors are there could be more than just Bitcoin, right? That this could be a basket of different crypto assets. And to be really honest, I don't know how to feel about that. I think the market also, everyone just wanted to hear the word Bitcoin, strategic
exactly.
Bitcoin reserve. I think if there should be an asset that is backing a nation, it should be Bitcoin. Don't get me wrong, me personally, I'm a fan of all crypto assets and everything related to innovation on the blockchain. But in this specific case, I would say it should be just Bitcoin. I don't know how you feel about that.
No, I mean, we have spoken already so much about, Bitcoin and its deflationary value and the fact that it can, like, agreed with you on the fact that if there is one asset, it should be Bitcoin as a reserve. But we have also seen over the last week rumors of it being US based crypto projects.
Yeah.
But agreed with you there. And good point on mentioning as well that this will be assets seized by the federal government. I think there is currently around 80K Bitcoin that the US Marshals hold. So it would, at the moment, it seems that they're hinting at it, but they're not saying what we all want to hear.
Yeah.
So this is a good step forward.
I thought about these news a lot yesterday and this morning. And I think the market and the community, they expected that it's getting done, that it's getting done, that he's going to announce a strategic Bitcoin reserve. It's an executive order. It's signed. It's done. But as of now, that didn't happen, right? What we have now is we have a working group looking at a potential national digital asset stockpile.
Mhm.
What I think is why I think it's still good though is because markets always, they price in anticipation, right?
Mhm.
I think if he would have signed an executive order with Bitcoin, maybe that would have kind of like, removed the anticipation and a potential enthusiasm to look forward to the next event. And I think that's what is being reflected in the price as well. We're stalling around 105K. Therefore, I think it's actually healthy for this broader rally, so to speak.
You just want a longer bull run. So
I want the longer bull run for sure.
It makes sense. I agree. And I think another point on just the working group, of course, got still some other content we want to show you guys, but is the fact that they will also take a look at all the regulations, documents, orders that are related to digital assets and
Yeah.
have the opportunity to submit to, the chair, which will be David Sachs, to give their recommendations as to what they should do with each regulation, which is huge because that means that they could have the potential to reverse a lot of, things that hampered the industry over the last years. And I think one of them is already kind of been mentioned and been talked about, not through the executive order, but the SEC have repealed the Strategic Accounting Bulletin 121. Which is big because that bulletin essentially meant that any institutional banks that wanted to custody crypto on behalf of their clients, they had to post it as a liability, and then that causes some kind of operational risks for these banks, and of course it means less people will have access to custodied crypto assets. For the more crypto native people here, you're like, well, that's not of interest to me, but we have to remember that the world is far bigger than that, and there'll be people who want digital assets custodied by institutions, the elderly, children. If you're looking to pass on your inheritance through generations, that is and you need to have institutions that custody your assets. So it's a very big plus as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. What do we expect to see? I think all of these big banks and custody providers, they will come out shortly with kind of like any Bitcoin or crypto related services, which is obviously good to see. Wonderful. A lot has happened. I think I think we captured the zeitgeist. I think we captured the status quo. Yeah. What's next? What do you think is going to happen next? Do we still have some upside? Is the market overheated? Like, where are we going, in your opinion?
Look, I mean, for those who read our newsletter will have known that we did, a piece on where are we in the market cycle at the moment, and I think our view is that we are reaching the latter stages of the cycle, and so that's not to say we don't have upside, not at all, because if we look historically, actually, most of the exuberant price action, happens towards the end of the cycle, and so we still have definitely some upside, but at the same time, it's to remain vigilant because we may be entering a potentially more volatile market. I mean, yeah, this is a perfect maybe place to start as well. If you look at historical halving cycles, you can see that after 350 days, you are significantly higher than what you were before, right? And so of course, this becomes more muted each halving because the supply shock effect of the halving reduces, but it's still a significant, indicator, and it shows us that we're not quite there yet. So
Yeah.
I still expect to have some upside here as well.
I totally agree. I mean, again, we unpack this in our newsletter as well. Obviously, we're looking a lot on chain as well, how the signals are looking like. And yeah, you might have seen this one here as well, which is the net unrealized profit loss. It basically shows if the entire network as a whole is currently in a profit or in a loss. And that's kind of a reflection of the sentiment in the market, because you can see here nicely with this color code, when we are in like this red zone, that's usually in a deep bear market. Those are actually good times to enter or start building a Bitcoin allocation. While on the other side, once we go into the green and especially into the blue zone, which signals greed, that usually, mirrors a top in the market in terms of prices. And we've seen this here in the early days. We've seen it here in 2018. We see it here in 2021, where we briefly touched it. And now we kind of can see we're still in the green area, but we're ticking higher towards this green zone. And again, as you said, I think that just signals we're at a later stage of the bull market. That doesn't mean there's no upside potential anymore, but we're starting slowly to heat up, and I think people should be cautious. But prices can move very quickly here. I think it's, as you said, just looking at the price as well. If we just compare it maybe to the last couple of cycles, we can see here in the later stage of the bull market, this is a weekly chart. It's the price doubles within a few weeks, and it also comes down within a few weeks. So this can go really, really quickly.
Mhm.
Will you be able to hit the top here? Absolutely not. But building a strategy, especially a long-term strategy around this market structure, I think it's really, really important. I mean,
I agree with you. I think the point on like a long-term strategy is quite important as well. Some people might be thinking of timing the market. Good luck. I don't recommend that. I don't do that myself either. And with Bitcoin itself, the fact that it's the only limited asset in the world without any counterparty risks means that we are super bullish in the long term. But of course, if you're entering the market at this point, remain vigilant and make sure that your allocations align with your investment goals and with your risk aversion as well.
Absolutely, 100%. No, so again, I think this is the most exciting part of the cycle always. This is when it gets a bit crazy. I mean, we had a kickoff with a Trump and Melania meme coin, but there's many more catalysts to come. But as you said, I think it's important to have a clear strategy and follow it accordingly. Amazing. Are there any other things we have to talk about in this market? What excites you at the moment?
I think there is one sector that is exciting me quite a lot recently, and that's really, maybe we can move over the few slides because we've talked about market structure already, but the convergence of AI and blockchain, and that is what we believe is sparking the next phase or the final phase of the bull market. And of course, I think crypto and AI has so much potential. It can, help with fake news detection. It can make sure that computing is shared safely and securely. But I think what we've started to see as of now is the rise and the hype of AI agents. So for those of you who haven't heard this term before, AI agents are like the next evolution of AI chatbots. So of your GPTs and of your ChatGPT and of your Gemini and whatnot. Those are great tools still, but AI agents build on that by essentially allowing them to be more free. They no longer need the human intervention for prompts, and they're able to make decisions in multiple steps. And the crucial thing is that they're able to transact. And that is exactly where you need crypto. If this was in a traditional industry, these AI agents would not be able to transact because they would not be able to pass the KYC requirements. I mean, they don't have an ID, So like in the crypto world, they're able to open up a wallet and they're able to trade. And I think that is really what's exciting here. We'll show a couple of examples as well, but let's maybe level set a bit. A lot of the current integrations or the current agents that we've seen are far more lighthearted. They some of them are analysts, which is maybe a risk for my job. Some of them are more satirical. And there's also an iteration called Zerebro, which is my personal favorite, which launched its own album on Spotify and has also created an NFT collection. And so they are more lighthearted, but this is quite typical of innovations in the space as well. I think we saw this in the last cycle with, profile pic NFTs. that's not the final, holy grail of what the technology can do. And it's the same in the case here. They may be
I agree.
lighthearted, but there's so much that it's clear. The potential is so clear.
I totally agree with you. Yeah, it's a lot of times it starts with a very limited or even stupid use case. As you said, it's very similar to previous cycles, right? In 2017, 18, we had ICOs,
Yeah.
really like on-chain IPOs, you could say, which kind of created this bubble of speculation, but was also very important to kind of like attract liquidity and attract capital into the crypto space. Then 2020, 2021, we had NFTs and DeFi.
Yep.
NFTs may be the better example here, as you said, overpriced monkey pictures. Yeah. Again, like
technology's potential, right? And
exactly. Exactly. It always starts with the stupid use cases. I always tell that story that when I had my first iPhone, my first two apps were a fart pillow and a beer app. But now I basically, exactly. But now I use it for everything. And it's very similar here. The thing I have though with this is that I think it will create kind of like a speculation bubble because people are, they will get very, very excited about this new technology. They think it's going to change the world by tomorrow, overnight. But obviously it takes a few more years at least to materialize. And a lot of times markets just overprice and overreact on these kind of developments. So yeah.
I agree. Yeah, but really cool. And I mean, we've seen, I think there's a platform called Virtuals, which is a launch pad for these agents. And I think over like 15,000 agents launched on that launch pad. So it just shows how much attention it's getting. And they've even made over 60 million in revenue just from launching these agents. So as you said, it attracts capital, it attracts attention. It's a bit speculative, but it's important to showcase the potential of the technology and also for us to enter, in the final, more euphoric stage of the market.
Absolutely. And what I love about it as well, it's also even even non-crypto people can grasp the idea of AI agents. I think the best example is my girlfriend actually. When I talk to her about my job, she usually falls asleep. She's not really interested, which is quite refreshing as well. But when I told her about AI agents, she actually got really, really excited. It was a very tangible example that she could understand right away. And I think that's really important to attract more users into the crypto space.
Exactly. As you said, I agree. And here's a couple of examples we've put on screen, but I think Adrian will potentially show you some more.
Yeah, I mean, let's start with the first one. Of course, that's kind of like the future of our job almost. Yeah, we have AI XBT. So what is the AI XBT, Max?
It's basically me, but he's always posting stuff on LinkedIn, on Twitter. So it's essentially an on-chain analyst. And the cool thing is that it comes up with its own analysis without prompts as well, which is, again, the key differentiator between a chatbot and an agent. With a chatbot, you would have had to ask it very specific things and very specific prompts to be able to get responses like this. And here it can come up with its own kind of analysis, which is quite cool. Of course, there's instances where it may be off or it may, in AI terms, hallucinate. But at the same time, it's it's a very cool thing. And I've actually been looking at AI XBT every now and then for some insights as well.
It's true.
It's a very cool thing, but it may also replace me next analyst call. So it comes as a double-edged sword.
Exactly. So for the listeners, if it's only one person or there's none of us, then you know what happened, got replaced by AI agent. Yeah. But as you said, it's just fascinating because this agent I think on an hourly basis or every 20 minutes, he comes out with an insight that he basically, consolidates from a bunch of different sources, especially key opinion leaders. So it's fascinating. It's really, really fascinating.
That's the key thing as well, is that because it's, a bot and it's attached to multiple data sources, it can do this like quite instantaneously, which is, not possible for a human analyst like myself. And it's quite cool because it's interactive. You can also send it replies. You can ask it to do an analysis on something else. And it's a very cool tool. And I think, it's a first iteration of this type of agent, but we'll see much more going forward.
Absolutely. Maybe let's quickly talk about maybe your favorite one. What is Cerebro?
He's put it there. He's a schizo artist AI. No, I mean, it's an agent that is more on the creative side, I would say. So it launched its own platform. It launched its own Spotify album. Unfortunately, it's, I think, been now taken down live again. But there were some really good songs on there actually that I liked. And it's since also launched an NFT collection. And while again, this one lighthearted as well, it's actually looking to build on this initial hype that it received, partly because of the capital that it was also able to raise, and is implementing a new framework to be able to launch to be able to launch agents using Python as well, which is quite huge because a lot of large language models and AI based models are using Python. So it's going to make it a lot easier to level up this technology as well.
Absolutely. No, it's really sad that the album has been taken down. I think you can still find some songs on YouTube, but yeah, I can just recommend to check it out. But yeah, I think we could talk about this topic for hours, right?
Yeah.
There's so many things happening, and maybe we need this for another analyst call or another webinar. Obviously, for all the listeners here, if that's something you're really interested in, just let us know. We're happy to unpack it even more. But I think for today, we should wrap it up and also give the opportunity for all the listeners to ask some questions.
Yeah. And on AI agents specifically as well, I believe, we're going to be also coming out with some other content for that sector specifically. So stay tuned.
If the people in the audience or listeners have some questions, feel free to post them in the chat or in the Q&A. Let me see. Oh, I have one already. I think we missed that earlier on, which is kind of asking about, I think it was around the topic with CBDCs and stablecoins. The question was, what about Tether and related on USDT on this scenario?
Yeah, I think that is related to the point that they will, promote the development and whatnot of, legitimate and lawful dollar-backed stable coins. And we know that there's been questions circling also about the legitimacy of USDT's reserves and whatnot. But that being said, I personally don't expect USDT or Tether really to be targeted necessarily. I mean, firstly, because they hold a large amount of their reserves in US treasuries, and as a result, I think the US might potentially shoot themselves in the foot if they decide to go after USDT. And then also because I believe that the one of Trump's cabinet members, the CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald, Lutnick, he's actually the one managing Tether's US Treasury portfolio and has a 5% stake in the company. So I understand there's concerns, for a long time now regarding Tether and their reserves, but I don't expect them to be targeted.
No, I mean, I agree. I don't think there will be any crackdown on USDT or Tether. I do think it might be a win for USDC though, for Circle, which is obviously fully regulated in the US. I think they might gain some more dominance, but other than that, it's an overall win for any US dollar stablecoin. All right. Another question here. Which index should I buy to diversify my portfolio and get maximum profit? Are there coming more indexes like future and HODL? Let me know. Okay. It's a question more around our products. If we're going to launch any more index products and basket solutions in the future. I would say we have a full pipeline. We're always trying to innovate and come up with new products. So stay tuned for that. Obviously, that's all I can disclose at that point. But I think you already mentioned two very exciting products that we have on the shelf that provide a diversification. And depending on the investor type, we have products that go from 5 different crypto assets to even 21 different assets within one product. So for each investor looking for a diversified exposure, I think we have the right fit.
Yeah. And also just to add to that, I think on our website you also find a guide on our basket or index ETPs, which may help you decide which basket is right for you. So feel free to look there, and otherwise reach out, and I'll be happy to point you in the right direction as well.
And obviously, if you have a fantastic idea or think we missed something from our side, always, drop
Yes.
us an email, reach out to us. Of course, we want to make sure we provide the right solutions. All right. I don't know if we have any more questions. I think if there's no questions, we did a great job, Max. With that being said, thank you very much. Feel free to reach out to us. Add us on LinkedIn. And see you next time, and happy weekend. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.